How much do we truly trust the stories history tells us? Especially when you get into that shadowy world of, well,
Right,
espionage.
it's murky territory. And how
Mm-mm.
much do we trust the authors trying to bring those secrets into the light?
Exactly. What makes one historical count feel more, reliable? Or just more compelling than another? Today, we're diving into Ben Macintyre's Agent Sonya, Moscow's most daring wartime spy. And this is something a bit different. Enjoy a bold new take on book coverage with this extended analysis. We're not just doing a summary, though, we'll cover that too. This feature looks at how Macintyre shapes his argument, how he builds influence, and crucially, how he earns or maybe loses your trust. The idea is to give you the tools to read with, well, sharper insight, not just this book, but any story you encounter. So, should you read Agent Sonya? This should definitely help you decide. And it's also great if you're an aspiring writer. Really useful stuff. If you find this expanded format valuable, please let us know. Your feedback helps guide what we do next. And just a quick note, you are experiencing a unique two-host AI conversation powered by Google's NotebookLM for deeper, more dynamic book analysis. Okay, so let's set the stage. For anyone who doesn't know her, who was Sonya? What's the basic story?
Well, Ursula Kuczynski, codenamed Sonya she was, and this isn't really hyperbole, one of the Soviet Union's most effective, most elusive spies.
Mm-hmm.
Her life was genuinely extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Born into a wealthy Jewish family in Berlin, she became a really fervent communist, quite young. And that path led her to operate across 3 continents during World War II. We're talking China, then Switzerland, and eventually, believe it or not, rural England.
Wow. Okay.
And what's just incredible is that she managed all this high-stakes espionage, these dangerous missions, while also raising her children.
Wait, hold on. A mother and a master spy running operations across continents? That sounds, well, completely cinematic.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, the sheer audacity, living a seemingly normal life, maybe dealing with homework and dinner while secretly transmitting vital intelligence, it sort of blows your mind.
She really was a force of nature. She set up secret radio stations, she trained other agents, organized escapes, and perhaps most famously, she played a key role in helping transfer atomic secrets to Moscow. Her impact on intelligence history, especially during that really critical period, is huge. Macintyre details her involvement in everything from, aiding German resistance fighters to passing information about the Manhattan Project, a really formidable, complex figure.
An incredible life, no question. But for us today, what's really fascinating is how. How does Ben Macintyre bring this incredibly complex secret history to life? It's one thing to have amazing material, right? But it's another to make it believable and keep you absolutely hooked. What are his tools for earning our trust as readers?
Ah, that's exactly it. That's where Macintyre's skill really comes through. He doesn't just lay out facts. He crafts this incredibly immersive experience.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting for our analysis today. Macintyre isn't just recounting events. He's building a narrative, a story. How does his reputation, his whole approach, give him credibility right off the bat?
Well, his professional ethos, as you might call it, is a massive factor. Ben Macintyre has built this really strong reputation. He's a respected writer of espionage nonfiction.
Right, books like Operation Mincemeat, The Spy, and The Traitor.
Exactly. He's known for blending just meticulous, rigorous research with storytelling that's incredibly accessible. So readers often come to Agent Sonya already trusting his ability to handle this kind of complex, sensitive history accurately, but also with narrative flair.
So that credibility is sort of pre-established. We trust he won't just, sensationalize things.
Precisely. You trust him to navigate the complexities without cheapening it.
That makes sense. It's like going to a restaurant where you know the chef consistently delivers. But beyond his name, what about the style of the book? How does it differ from, say, a dry academic history?
Okay, so that gets us to what you might call the book's genre hybridity. Macintyre is brilliant at combining the factual accuracy and logical structure you expect from serious nonfiction with narrative techniques you'd normally find in fiction.
Like what, specifically?
Well, he uses really vivid scenes, almost cinematic descriptions. He develops characters, even these historical figures, giving them psychological depth. And he builds suspense like a thriller writer. Think about how he reconstructs Sonya's dangerous border crossings or the tension of a secret meeting. It feels immediate, almost like you're there.
That's fascinating. So he's kind of drawing us into learning history by making it feel like a really gripping novel. Can you think of a moment in the book where that blend felt particularly powerful?
Oh, absolutely. I think the parts describing her time in Switzerland are a great example. She's running this safe house, managing a radio operation, constant risk of discovery.
Yeah.
and at the same time, dealing with the everyday chaos of having 3 young children underfoot. Macintyre gives you the technical details, the radio frequencies, the operational risks, alongside the really human struggles of motherhood.
Yeah.
It's that dual-layer storytelling.
Hmm.
Meticulous history underpinning a really human, suspenseful story. That's what makes it so compelling.
I think that blend is just crucial for you, the reader. You're not wading through dense text. You're getting solid research presented in this really engaging, almost visual way. Next time you find a nonfiction book really pulling you in, maybe check if the author's doing something similar. Blending facts with those novelistic techniques, it's a sign of skillful writing. It helps you absorb complex stuff without feeling like you're studying. Okay, so a great book engages the mind and the heart, right? It informs, but it also makes you feel something, makes you think deeply. How does Macintyre pull off both that emotional and intellectual engagement in Agent Sonya?
Yeah, he's very skilled at that. He definitely starts by tapping into emotions, what we sometimes call pathos. He pulls you in by highlighting Sonya's huge personal risks. I mean, the constant threat of capture, torture, death, and balancing that against her deep family responsibilities, her kids.
Right.
He gives these really vivid descriptions of her escapes, like fleeing Shanghai with her children, or moments where she's clearly vulnerable. That fosters empathy. You connect with her as a person facing these almost impossible choices.
And the moral grayness, too, presumably.
Exactly. The profound moral ambiguity. She's spying for Stalin's regime, a brutal dictatorship, yet she genuinely believes she was fighting fascism, fighting for a better world. That tension resonates emotionally.
It makes her feel real, relatable even, despite the extraordinary life. But, okay, emotional connection is one thing. For history, you need that solid foundation of logic,
Yeah.
of facts. How does he build that intellectual trust? The logos, as you said.
Right. The logical structure is key. Macintyre organizes the book mainly chronologically, it's very clear. This lets you follow Sonya's journey pretty seamlessly through the major upheavals of the 20th century. The rise of fascism, World War II, the start of the Cold War. He presents the facts clearly. He weaves in analysis to help you understand her choices in context. And really importantly, he's careful not to speculate without evidence.
Mm-hmm.
The argument holds together well. There's solid evidence for each stage of her life. And crucially, he's upfront about any gaps or uncertainties in the historical record. He tells you what we don't know.
That transparency is so important, isn't it? It actually builds more trust than pretending to have all the answers.
Absolutely. And it makes the claims he does make feel much more solid.
Does he also place her story within the bigger picture effectively? The wider world events?
Yes, very much so. He's incredibly sensitive to the cultural and political context. He paints a picture of the shifting allegiances, the extreme dangers in mid-20th century Europe and Asia, the ideological battles, totalitarianism, the complex alliances during the war. This rich context isn't just background detail. It really deepens your understanding of the huge stakes involved for her. You see how her personal choices were tangled up with massive global events.
So that careful balance means you don't just learn what happened. You start to grasp why it mattered personally for her and on this global stage. When you read a biography, notice that framing. Is the person just floating through time, or do you see history shaping their choices? That's what Macintyre does so well here. So what does this all really mean? Thinking about the craft itself. Beyond the big structure, what specific writing techniques is Macintyre using, down at the sentence level maybe, to build suspense or convey all this complexity? What's in his toolkit?
Okay, yeah, let's get into the weeds a bit. He's very deliberate. First, diction and syntax, his word choice and sentence structure. His writing is really accessible, very engaging, but it's also precise. When he uses technical terms, maybe espionage jargon like cutouts or dead drops, or historical terms like Comintern, he explains them smoothly so you'd understand without the flow being broken.
Right. He doesn't just dump jargon on you.
Exactly. And his sentences vary a lot. You'll get these short, punchy sentences to heighten tension, maybe during a chase scene or a difficult decision. Then he'll use longer, more descriptive sentences to build context, paint a picture, or explore her thoughts. That variety keeps the pace dynamic.
That makes sense. Varying sentence length is such a powerful tool for engagement. What about the overall flow you mentioned earlier, the chronological structure?
Well, the organization itself is a tool. Being chronological, it mirrors her life, right? So it inherently builds suspense as you move through her experiences. You see her evolve from this idealistic young woman into a hardened operative, though still conflicted.
You witness her growth alongside the world changing around her.
Precisely. You see the stakes getting higher, her skills developing, the global situation shifting. It has this cumulative impact. He also uses repetition and juxtaposition really effectively.
How so?
While certain themes keep recurring, secrecy, shifting identities, the cost of loyalty, these motifs reinforce the core ideas. And he often contrasts Sonia's domestic life, the mother of the homemaker, with her espionage work, the spy handling radios or explosives.
Ah, that contrast. The ordinary next to the extraordinary.
Exactly. That juxtaposition really highlights the incredible dichotomy of her life.
Yeah.
It underlines her complex humanity in a really profound way. And finally, illusion, referencing well-known figures like Churchill or Stalin, or events like the Atom Bomb Project, anchors her story firmly in that broader world history. You see where she fits.
Speaking of different perspectives and thoughtful analysis, this is probably a good moment to mention Mindful Moments, our YouTube channel. It offers AI book analysis, summaries, and critiques designed to inspire reflection and rational thought. It's another great resource for nourishing your mind.
Absolutely. And what's really fascinating when you look at all these techniques together is how these deliberate choices in language and structure create such a persuasive, engaging, and I think ethically nuanced portrait. It's a real masterclass.
Yeah, definitely. And understanding these tools helps you read more sharply, doesn't it? Not just this book, but any narrative. For aspiring writers, it's like looking under the hood of nonfiction storytelling. Next time you're reading, maybe look for those moments of juxtaposition Macintyre uses, where an author puts two contrasting things side by side. It's a powerful way to show complexity. Okay, so pulling it all together. After looking at his methods, does Macintyre actually succeed? Does he inform, persuade, and entertain? And maybe most importantly, how does he handle that ethical tightrope of portraying a spy, someone whose actions were definitely in a moral gray zone?
Yeah, I think if we look at the big picture, he largely succeeds on all those fronts. He definitely convinces you of Sonia's historical significance, but he does it without glossing over the profound moral complexities of her actions.
So he doesn't make her just a hero or just a villain.
Not at all. She comes across as deeply complex, driven by fierce convictions, yes, but also undeniably working for a regime responsible for terrible things. He presents her with empathy, I think, but never lets you forget the context of her loyalty to Moscow.
That's a tricky balance. Given how inherently dramatic spy stories are, is there a risk of leaning into sensationalism, maybe losing sight of the often mundane reality of intelligence work?
That's a fair point. It's always a risk in this genre. But I think Macintyre navigates it well by letting the inherent drama of her actual life speak for itself, rather than hyping it up unnecessarily. He addresses the ethical side with real nuance. He acknowledges her courage, sure, but also the serious consequences of her espionage, especially her role in atomic spying. He avoids sensationalism, mostly by sticking closely to the facts, even though the facts themselves are incredibly dramatic. And he invites you, the reader, to grapple with those big questions. The tension between her individual loyalty and her ideology, the impact of secret activities on ordinary lives, these questions stick with you, which I think is a sign of success.
It sounds like he trusts the reader to think rather than telling them what to think. What about the foundation, the evidence? How solid is it?
Well, the quality of the evidence is really strong. That's crucial for the trust factor we talked about. He relies heavily on primary sources. Sonia's own quite detailed memoirs, for one. But also loads of declassified intelligence files from the UK, Germany, Russia, plus interviews with family members, people who knew her. His citations are rigorous, the sources are varied, documented, cross-referenced.
So he's really done the archival digging.
Absolutely. He's meticulously reconstructing her life from the available records. That commitment to evidence ensures that his interpretation, while it's definitely a compelling narrative, is always anchored in historical fact.
You know, this whole discussion really highlights how Macintyre's skill isn't just what he tells us, but how he tells it. His ability to make complex history feel immediate, intimate, and relevant. That's why Agent Sonya works so well. It's the blend of great writing and solid research. So to sum up, Ben Macintyre's rhetorical skill, that masterful blend of rigorous history with genuinely compelling storytelling, creates a book that's both incredibly informative and, frankly, hard to put down. Hopefully, through this analysis, you've gained some tools to see how authors shape their arguments and earn your trust tools you can use with any book, which leaves us with a final thought for you to consider. As you reflect on Ursula Kuczynski's truly extraordinary life and Macintyre's portrayal of it, what does Agent Sonya make you think about? Maybe about the nature of personal conviction, or the limits of official history, or even the hidden forces that shape our world, often without us realizing it. Click the link on screen for the in-depth book summary. Subscribe, share, purchase via link, and think rationally. See the many genre-based book podcasts at Mindful Moments. Subscribe and nourish your mind on the go.